Let me guess. You've been avoiding looking at the retirement account. Maybe because there isn't one, or because there is one, and the number is so low that looking at it feels worse than not looking. Either way, you've been telling yourself you'll deal with it later. Except later is starting to feel a lot like now. And here's the thing that makes this worse. Everyone around you seems to have it figured out. Your coworker who's always talking about their 401k balance. Your brother-in-law who retired at 62. The financial advisor on YouTube who keeps telling you that you should have started investing in your 20s. Yeah, thanks. That's super helpful advice for someone who's 60 years old right now. So let me ask you something. If you're sitting here at 60 with little to no retirement savings, is it actually too late? Can you do anything meaningful at this point? Or should you just accept that you're going to be working until you physically can't anymore? The answer might surprise you. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it, but I'm also not going to tell you it's hopeless. Because it's not. My name is Frank, and I spend way too much time thinking about retirement math that most people wish they didn't have to learn. If you're tired of generic advice that doesn't apply to your actual situation, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button if this helps you out. Here's what's probably running through your head right now. You look at your bank account and you see a number that feels impossibly small compared to what you're supposed to have. Maybe it's $5,000, maybe it's $15,000. Maybe it's literally zero because life happened. Medical bills, divorce, helping your kids, job loss, taking care of your parents. Just plain bad timing. And the worst part? You already know you should have started earlier. You don't need another financial expert to tell you that. You don't need someone wagging their finger at you explaining compound interest and how, if you'd started at 25, you'd be a millionaire by now. You know. Trust me, you know. But here's what nobody tells you. There are millions of Americans in your exact situation. According to the Federal Reserve, about 25% of Americans aged 55 to 64 have zero retirement savings. Zero. That means 1 out of every 4 people your age is in the same boat you're in right now. This isn't a character flaw. This isn't because you're irresponsible or lazy. This is what happens when life costs money and you've been busy living it. The question isn't, why didn't I start earlier? The question is, what do I actually do now? Let's start with the most important number you need to know. Social Security. Because whether you've saved anything or not, you're going to get Social Security assuming you've worked long enough to qualify. And for a lot of people in your situation, that's going to be the foundation of everything. The average Social Security benefit right now is about $1,907 a month. That's the average. Your number might be higher if you had a good income for most of your career. It might be lower if you had gaps in employment or worked lower paying jobs. But let's use that average as a starting point. $1,907 per month is $22,984 per year. Now, can you live on that? Let me put this in perspective. The average retiree spends somewhere around $4,345 per month, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's $52,140 per year. So if your average, Social Security covers about 44% of your expenses. Less than half. That's a $2,448 gap every single month for potentially 25 or 30 years. Here's the thing most people don't realize about Social Security timing. You can start collecting as early as 62, but your benefit gets reduced permanently. If your full retirement age is 67 and you claim at 62, you're taking about a 30% haircut. That $1,907 average becomes closer to $1,335. On the other hand, if you wait until 70, your benefit increases by about 24%. That same $1,907 becomes around $2,364. So let's think about this strategically. If you have no savings at 60, the decision of when to claim Social Security becomes one of the most important financial decisions you're going to make. And here's the kicker. Most people claim early because they need the money now. But if you can find a way to delay even a couple of years, you're essentially buying yourself a higher guaranteed monthly payment for the rest of your life. That's not nothing. But here's where it gets really interesting. Let's say you're 60 right now, and you can keep working for another 7 years until you're 67. That gives you two massive advantages. First, you delay taking Social Security, which means your benefit keeps growing. Second, you have 7 years to actually save something. I know what you're thinking. 7 years isn't enough time to save a meaningful amount. But let me show you the math. If you can save $500 a month for 7 years, and you put it in something conservative that earns even 4% per year, you'd have about $47,600 by the time you're 67. Is that going to make you rich? No. But is it going to give you options you don't have right now? Absolutely. Let's talk about what $47,600 actually does for you. If you follow the 4% rule, which is a common guideline that says you can safely withdraw 4% of your savings each year in retirement, that $47,600 gives you about $1,904 per year. That's $159 per month. Now, I can already hear you saying $159 a month doesn't sound like much. And you're right. It's not life-changing by itself. But here's what it actually represents. It's the difference between affording your prescriptions and skipping them. It's the difference between keeping your car maintained and hoping it doesn't break down. It's the difference between being able to help your grandkid with their birthday and having to apologize. You're not saving to become wealthy at this point. You're saving to buy yourself dignity and options. Let me introduce you to someone I'll call Diane. She's 59. Spent 22 years as a medical receptionist, making about $38,000 a year. Went through a divorce at 51 that wiped out what little savings she had. Then spent 5 years helping pay for her mother's memory care, which cost about $4,500 a month. When her mother passed away last year, Diane looked at her finances and had $8,200 in a savings account and nothing else. No 401k, no IRA, no pension. She came to me thinking it was over, that she'd be working until she literally couldn't anymore. So we did the math together. Here's what we figured out. Diane's projected Social Security benefit at 67 is about $1,650 per month. If she waits until 70, it goes up to about $2,000. That's an extra $396 per month for the rest of her life. Over 20 years, that's an additional $95,140. For someone with no other savings, that's massive. But she needs money to live on between now and 70. So here's the plan we worked out. She's going to keep working until she's 65. That's 6 more years. During that time, she's going to save $600 a month, which is aggressive, but possible because she no longer has her mother's care expenses. In 6 years, at a conservative 4% return, that's about $48,700. At 65, she's going to semi-retire. She'll take a part-time job that pays about $1,200 a month, just enough to cover basics and preserve her savings. She'll do that for 5 years until she's 70. Then she'll claim Social Security at the maximum amount of $2,046 per month. Plus, she'll still have most of that $48,700 saved because she didn't need to touch it while she was working part-time. Is this the retirement Diane dreamed about? No. But is it survivable? Yes. And here's the truth. She's not exceptional. She's not unusual. She's millions of Americans. And nobody is making plans for her. Let me talk about something that financial advisors don't always emphasize, but might be the most important thing of all. Your health. Think about it this way. The average American spends over $300,000 on healthcare during their lifetime. If you're 60 right now with no savings, you absolutely cannot afford to be unhealthy. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying it because it's the biggest lever you have left. If you can avoid smoking, maintain a reasonable weight, stay active, and manage chronic conditions before they become catastrophic, you're not just adding years to your life. You're preventing the kind of medical bills that bankrupt people. Here's something genuinely shocking. Medicare doesn't start until 65. If you retire at 62 and claim Social Security early, you have a 3-year gap where you need to pay for your own health insurance. The average cost of health insurance for a 62-year-old is about $800 per month. That's $9,600 per year. For 3 years, that's $28,800 just for the privilege of not dying from something preventable. This is why working until 65 is so powerful. You keep your employer health insurance, you delay claiming Social Security so your benefit grows, and you have time to save something. But here's the thing, and this is important. I've given you a plan. I've shown you the math. I've explained why it's not too late. But I also need to be honest with you about what this actually looks like. You're not going to retire to a beach house. You're not going to travel the world. You're not going to be comfortable in the way that word usually means. What you're doing is building a floor. A minimum level of existence that doesn't require you to depend entirely on your kids or the government or luck. And that might sound depressing, but here's the reframe. You still have agency. That's what this whole thing comes down to. At 60 with no savings, you might feel like you've lost. Like the game is over and you're just waiting for the consequences. But that's not actually true. Every dollar you save between now and whenever you claim Social Security is a dollar working for you. Every year you delay claiming is an 8% raise you give yourself permanently. Every health decision you make is either adding to your runway or cutting it short. Let me tell you what you don't have to do. You don't have to feel ashamed. You don't have to listen to people who tell you that you should have started earlier. You don't have to pretend everything's fine when it's not. And you don't have to give up. What you do have to do is get brutally honest about the numbers. You need to know what your Social Security benefit is going to be. You can create an account on ssa.gov right now and see your exact projected benefit based on your work history. That number is the foundation of everything else. You need to figure out what your actual monthly expenses are, not what you think they are, not what you wish they were, what they actually are. Rent or mortgage, utilities, food, insurance, car, everything. Add it up. Then compare it to your Social Security number. That gap is what you need to figure out how to fill. And here's the truth. For some people, that gap is going to require working longer. For some people, it's going to require downsizing, moving to a cheaper area, getting a roommate, selling the car, and using public transit. These aren't fun options, but they're real options, and real options are what you need right now.